Hello and welcome to the British Dyslexia Association's webinar broadcast, Why Mind Mapping is Helpful for Dyslexic Learners and an Introduction to Mind Mapping Software. As you will have seen from our opening slides, we have lots to offer here at the BDA, from training, assessment, conferences and much more. So please do visit our website for further information. On to tonight's session then. We are delighted to welcome Liam Pettit from Matchware. Liam's worked within e-learning for the past 8 years, working in schools across the world, and he's passionate about unlocking potential through the use of assistive technology. Although the BDA does not endorse any particular product, it's always really useful for us to link with the experts. And Liam and the team at Matchware are indeed mind mapping experts. So without further delay, we're going to hand over now to Liam for tonight's session.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Donna, for that introduction, and good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining this webinar kind of tutorial or introduction to mind mapping and how that can be used to specifically support learners or individuals in the workplace with dyslexia. As you can see, we're using tonight the GoToWebinar tool to help do the screen sharing. And before we actually begin tonight's session, I wanted to kind of get an understanding of who we've got on the line and make sure that this session is truly relevant to all of you. So before we get started, I'd really appreciate it if you could just take a moment just to answer this poll question, just to give me an idea of what your motivation is. If you provide assessments and you're looking to demonstrate this type of strategy for learners or individuals in the workplace, do you mentor individuals and mind mapping is a particular strategy you use? Are you a parent and you're looking for resources? Are you evaluating mind mapping software for your business, or are you a potential mind mapping user yourself and you're intrigued to learn a little bit more? So you should see that on your screen in front of you now. If you just let me just have a look here. On the right-hand side, you can just toggle your answer.
Are we okay, Liam?
I think that
okay?
It might have gone a little bit quickly, and before we even started.
I can see it on my screen, but I don't know.
That's okay. So how about this? Let's try this instead. So as we're in the GoToWebinar functionality as well, guys, there's a couple of bits of functionality I just want to draw your attention to. The first is obviously the ability to ask questions, and I encourage you to ask questions as we go through this training session. Donna will be on hand to read out those questions to me as we go through this. That's for questions, that's for comments, anything you want to say as we go through this, and we'll try to obviously get through everyone's comments as best as we can. The second bit of functionality is you'll see on the GoToWebinar panel, there's the ability to press this kind of hands up button. I'm a big fan of this button because it's kind of like my virtual high five. It kind of makes me aware that all of you on the line is awake and you're with me and kind of ready to move on to the next section. So as a quick kind of dress rehearsal, why not find that hands up button now on the GoToWebinar panel and press it, and I can see everyone's hands going up straight away. Terrific. So everyone's awake and with me. If you can't see that hands up button, don't worry, and just maybe type into the questions panel a comment and things like that. So just press it once and I've got the ability then to put everyone's hands down. So just out of general interest then, who in this webinar has a particular interest for the academic side? Oh, actually, here's the poll, so we can, and the hands are going
fantastic.
up as well.
Great stuff.
I can see all the answers are flooding in now, and some hands went up too. Yeah. This is great. So a lot of you providing assessments, that's interesting, and some of you mentoring individuals as well. A few parents out there. A number of you looking at this for your organization, and yeah, some users out there too. But predominantly, we've got a mix of people who are providing assessments or mentoring individuals as using mind mapping as a strategy, That's really interesting, really useful to know. And everyone voted, so that's great. So I'm going to close that now. That's all I really wanted to do, is make sure that this session was truly valuable for everybody. So I'm just going to show my screen now. If you want to just pass over the screen to me, guys. Excellent.
Yeah, and while we're just doing that, as Liam said, please do share your questions throughout. We normally take some at the end as well, but Liam's very skilled at stopping and answering something and carrying on. I know you want to try and make it as interactive as possible this evening, Liam, so
yeah, and
should
personally,
be a great night.
My own experience with dyslexia is I have a very low working memory, and if I don't ask the question straight away, I'm going to forget it. So I'm always one of those people who wants to get the question in straight away. So if you're the same, I completely empathize, and I won't find it disruptive in the slightest.
Great stuff.
Good. Okay, so look, just to begin with, let's have a look at a kind of introduction to mind mapping in general. I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with mind mapping, be it from when you were in the school days with a piece of paper and drawing it onto a page, or if you've had some previous experience with using mind mapping software in the past. But ultimately, a lot of the feedback that we get from users who have a barrier to learning or barriers at work associated with dyslexia often tell us that they struggle with obviously reading and writing, but specifically writing in linear style formats. So using Word or using PowerPoint is a very big challenge because they are kind of linear structures. As I just mentioned there, obviously short-term memory is a challenge, and how to embed ideas, and mind mapping is obviously one of those areas that supports memory retention, be it for revising or just remembering processes, whatever it might be. And concentrating, obviously when reading great pieces of information, it can be quite difficult to concentrate for long periods of time. So visualizing ideas or having the big picture in a mind map often helps to reduce some of the stresses associated with having to concentrate for large periods of time. And as I alluded to at the start, sequencing. And I often talk about the benefits of linear versus organic. Obviously, mind map is a very organic structure and a lot more friendly way to see the big picture and organize ideas and bring sense to some of those ideas. But for those of you who have never seen mind mapping software before, I have to iterate here that it's much more than just mind mapping software. So if you do have a kind of negative memory of what it was like to draw mind maps and then have to use those plans to do some writing, it has evolved considerably, and we'll be looking at some of those areas throughout today's session. But when it comes to mind mapping software, I wanted to really showcase MindView tonight, because where MindView really excels is being a mind mapping software that is truly accessible. And what that really means is it's available and usable by everybody. So to achieve that, Matchware went out and consulted with the Digital Accessibility Centre, who means tested our softwares with individuals with a wide range of disabilities and helped us to develop the assistive technology version of the software. And what that meant was MindView was developed to have all of these accessibility enhancements. So these are quite important. So for instance, the integration with the Dragon naturally speaking software. So not only can you dictate into the software, which is a very, very valuable strategy for some of our learners and workplace reasonable adjustments, but you can actually manipulate the whole software with voice-only commands. So it makes the tool truly accessible in that respect. The software is built to be available for all screen readers, so no matter what text-to-speech tool you're using, everything on the screen is going to be read out, including the images. They've all been alt-tagged, so they can be read out by screen readers. And that kind of brings me on to one of the accessibility enhancements, which surprised me at first when I started working with Matchware, was that our kind of visually impaired and blind users get a lot of value out of mind mapping, which you wouldn't immediately associate with a visual planning tool. However, with the ability to work with JAWS and Zoom text out of the box, MindView is truly accessible for visually impaired and blind users. And there's also a specific text help integration as well. I'm not going to go through the next one line by line, but if you're familiar with universal design, MindView really ticks a lot of those boxes, which is great. One of the most kind of important things for the MindView users is that it looks and feels like a Microsoft Office program. So the kind of anxieties of having to learn new functionality are kind of removed, because it uses those skills that we've all used through using Microsoft Office. So it looks familiar, and I think most importantly as well, it doesn't look out of place. So it doesn't look like a tool that's just for a specific group of people. It looks like a tool that would be beneficial to everybody, because it looks like that off Microsoft Office program. And finally, just to kind of touch on who's using MindView at the moment, I think that's quite exciting. In the education sector, specifically in higher education, MindView has become extremely popular in the DSA, the Disability Students Allowances. Around 75% of all assessments that come with a mind mapping recommendation now come with a MindView recommendation. Simply because it's the most appropriate tool for accessibility and academic purposes, as you'll hopefully discover through today. But universities are now becoming more inclusive and having to provide for their students. So now 60% of all universities have MindView as a site license as well. So it's truly accessible to a lot of those learners. And in the workplace, access to work continues to get more and more popular, as well as workplaces who are becoming proactive in their approach to just making tools available regardless of assessment, regardless of whether or not it's been given to someone for a specific reason. But also a long heritage of using MindView in the workplace as a project management software. So I know those of you who are familiar with maybe MindView, you've not clicked the Gantt chart button very often. Well, we'll certainly be doing that today. So I hope to dispel some of the fears associated with that today. Happy to provide this mind map to everyone afterwards as well. But I thought what's best actually is if we just jump into kind of like a real life example of how MindView is used, or how mind mapping is used to approach a written exercise, be it an assignment or an essay for in the academics, or a report functionality for in the workplace. Just to make sure that everyone's happy with that, why not press that hands up button, give me a kind of virtual high five. Pat, you're the first one every time. I've seen you on webinars before, so I expect no less. Terrific, lots of hands going up. Great. Excellent, excellent. I'll put them down. Thank you very much. So I want you all to imagine that we are at the start of, I know some of you are workplace, some of you are academic, but let's imagine we're at the start of writing an essay, because we've all been there at some point in our history. But instead of writing a mind map or having to plan it on a piece of paper, we're going to use mind mapping as a methodology for getting our ideas out. Now, in the MindView software, there's a number of ways you can start to generate ideas. Personally, I use keyboard shortcuts. So the insert key generates a branch away from the center. You can start typing your ideas. And then the enter key creates branches at the same level. And very quickly, you can start creating those kind of very familiar branches and sub-branches of a mind map. However, especially with dyslexic learners, creating a mind map like this potentially isn't the best approach, because let's face it, they don't know what their mind map is going to look like yet. They've got this kind of random assortment of ideas in their mind, great ideas, but zero structure. So instead of using the keyboard shortcuts, I was introduced by one of our universities to a method called brain dumping. Actually, they referred to it as mind vomiting, which was particularly disgusting. But it's the process of just getting ideas out onto the screen that aren't connected to one another. And then after you've emptied your mind and you've kind of overcome, thinking about all these ideas, then you can filter and then bring connections together. So in the software here, in this example, I'm just going to double click into the spaces, and you can see all these ideas that are coming out, they're not connected to one another. But once that mind is empty, once you've exhausted all those ideas, you can then start to make some decisions on that's not relevant, so I'll delete this. This belongs there. Just drag and drop and connect ideas together. And very quickly, you can start to then see that visualization of the structure of the mind map coming together. And it kind of tricks learners who struggle to work in a linear hierarchy, like in Word, to start working in a hierarchy, because as soon as you create a branch and then create a sub-branch, you're starting to work within a hierarchy. Now, the hierarchy of a mind map is obviously pretty obvious from what it looks like. It starts with a central idea, and the information explodes outwards. Well, in MindView, there's also a kind of secondary order that's useful to be aware of. If I use the ribbon toolbar here at the top to turn on the numbering scheme, you'll notice that the first idea is at number 1 on the clock face, and we read the map in a clockwise formation. It's really important to understand this for a couple of reasons. Well, the first is very obvious. Maybe I don't want my information in this order. Maybe, let me just change this to test. Maybe I want this idea over there. Maybe I want this idea to appear in this particular section. So I can start to bring order to my ideas. But notice how the numbering sequence is adapting to me and the ideas and the sequence that I want them in. The second reason why this is really important to understand is because it's the backbone in the software. There's lots of different mind mapping softwares that can produce mind maps. I'm sure you've all seen and perhaps used different ones. But the magic of MindView is what you can do after you've made the mind map. And this numbering sequence is the backbone that we use when we're exporting out to the Microsoft Office, for example, when we're turning our mind map into our formatted, submittable essay or our submittable report. It uses that sequence to structure the hierarchy of the Word document or the slides, or even the Gantt chart when we're exporting or moving over to the Gantt chart. Okay, so I'm going to use that method now as I approach this essay that we're going to do, this kind of brain dumping method. And perhaps, Donna, if I was to ask for some input from people on the webinar, you can tell me what they're telling you. We're going to do a really serious, very, very serious essay on Marvel comic characters. I couldn't decide on whether to do something for students or for something for adults, so I just did something super general. So, red squiggly lines, let me just change that. So if I say Marvel comic characters, what characters come to your mind, guys? Have you got any particular ones that you can think of? I'll get you all started with Thor. That's always
my personal favourite, Liam, is the Hulk.
The Hulk?
I like the Hulk.
Very good. I'm going to challenge everyone as well.
Haven't had nobody else is saying anything yet. Laura's just said Black Widow. Black
Widow, excellent. A female character in there as well. I'm very happy about that. Black Widow. And let's just have one more if you guys can think of one. Don't get confused with your DC comic characters.
We've got Beatrice saying Captain America.
Captain America, that's a good one.
Another one, Hawkeye.
And another one for the Hulk.
And Hawkeye.
Hawkeye.
Yes, that's a look. We've just had Armand, and he's saying, do you just click on it to add a box? So are you just literally clicking on that screen, Liam, to add those boxes in?
Great question. I'm double clicking into the space.
Okay.
And if I double clicked on an existing box, it will create an idea down from that box as well. Where I've seen that work really well quite recently is if you have a Microsoft Surface, so you've got the keyboard and you've got the screen, you can literally just double click on the screen and it will start creating the mind map, which is quite nice.
Yeah, great.
Cool. So
do you want any more characters? Because Alison just said Spider-Man.
Well, because I got it. There we go. Let's put Spider-Man in there as well. So those are the main ones. And let's say for this essay, we've been told we need to, every superhero has a backstory. So we need to talk about their backstory. And we need to talk about maybe their superpowers. That's quite good. So there's no order to this at the moment. This is probably what the ideas must feel like to people when you say to on Marvel comic characters, all those ideas come out, but there's no structure to it. So now that we can see them, we've got them visualized in front of us, let's start bringing some structure. So we're writing an essay. So let's think about our characters first. So we'll just drag and drop and bring them in. Loads of contributions. So thank you guys, appreciate that. Spider-Man, Captain America. I said Thor, so I'm going to take Thor out because I want to make it just a bit easier to read. And the backstory and the superpowers, I want to talk about these characters for every single character. So I'm going to drag and drop over these two branches here. And just like I would in Microsoft Office, you know, the keyboard shortcuts, Control-C, Control-V to copy paste, or I can use the ribbon toolbar at the top. I'm just going to paste those ideas around each item on the mind map until I've now brought not only structure to my ideas, but and this is the big thing for students, or when people are approaching a written exercise. If you were to say, someone write me a 5,000 word essay on Marvel comic characters, you'd freeze. Maybe you don't know where to start. You have that kind of white page blank syndrome when you're looking at the Word document, you don't know what to do. But we've now not only got our ideas out and structured them into a hierarchy, we've broken the problem down into smaller pieces to help with our focus and to help make it more manageable, so we can kind of focus on each one of those individual parts. So you've gone from having a complete blank page, brain dumped our ideas and organized them around that central theme. Now, before we move any further, let me just kind of talk about some of these accessibility enhancements, one of which is having a kind of low contrast mode. And you'll often see this as a reading strategy, you know, having those colored overlays to help with the contrast and to read a reading strategy. So what we did in MindView, we've obviously got the ability to change loads of different colors and styles. I'm not going to do that today. You guys have your own artistic license, so I'm going to let you color in your own mind maps in your own time. But I am going to demonstrate how, obviously you can change your page color to some preset colors that we've got in here. But as an accessibility enhancement, and this is probably more prevalent in the workplace, if individuals know their RGB number, and trust me, they know their RGB number, the red, green, blue number, you can just punch it into here, and then every mind map you make will have that low contrast mode to help with that contrast when working on a mind map. So that's a nice kind of accessibility enhancement in the software. Now, for some users of our software, just this process of making the mind map, that's enough. You know, it helps relieve that anxiety, that worry of, I don't know what to talk about, or the ideas, and I don't know the structure. And this is enough for them to help them go on and carry on with their normal way of working. But what we can actually do in MindView is actually continue our work. And if we're looking at writing this as an essay, we can start to add our text onto each of these individual branches. So you can see in this ribbon toolbar across the top, which looks just like Microsoft, we've got nice visual icons depicting the functionality of the software, so it's quite easy to find what it is we want to do. So at the top here, we can add text, we can add images, which we're going to do, attachments, links to websites. We can really turn the mind map into a hub of content. But we're writing an essay, so let me turn on the text note editor. And notice, as I do that, this text note item appears at the bottom. I've got a preset color on mine because, again, that low contrast helps with the reading, so I've chosen that color in the background. But that ribbon toolbar across the top is now adapted to Microsoft Word. So you can do all of your formatting in MindView. There's no requirement to do that again when you get out to Word. Now, I've just realized I know absolutely nothing about Hawkeye, so I'm going to move Spider-Man to the top here and Hawkeye to the end. Maybe we can do some research for Hawkeye a little bit later. But for Spider-Man, his backstory, super basic. Spider-Man is, in fact, Peter Parker. Spoiler alert. Okay. But notice how I'm focused on this individual branch, and I'm now adding my text into this text note editor. Now, once I've added any bit of content, you notice at the top here, a paperclip appears just to show me something's embedded. And I've got a unique icon depicting text is now associated to this this branch. And it's fine, I can leave this text note editor open and just then cycle between each of these ideas and fill out my essay. Nice and simple. But what's important, I guess, for individuals who panic when thinking about lots of writing, it helps break it down to smaller pieces. And not only that, it helps distribute the relevance across the whole map. You know, we don't get the whole argument in the introduction. We actually get everything equally spread across each of these main ideas. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the objectives of using mind mapping is to help with memory recall. And there's obviously lots of examples in education where that's relevant, you know, revising for an exam, or even when we're writing in an essay, we want to kind of think about those ideas that we've learned from the past. But also in the workplace, you know, the example of remembering processes, perhaps remembering people or remembering to-do lists. So I'm a massive fan of putting images onto a mind map, because the more images you have on a mind map, the kind of improved the memory recall ability of that mind map is, because we associate the images with the data. So there's a number of different ways we can add images. We've got a picture catalog with about 2,000 royalty-free images in here. I say royalty-free for my higher education users on the line. If it ends up with a bit of, ends up on a student's work, there's going to be no copyright issues. But I can just drag and drop and put that onto the mind map. I think the reality is, though, most of us are just going to go over to the internet and grab something from the internet. So let me just search for the Hulk. Excellent, there we go. That's a pretty, let's get a really big image. There we go. The reason why I'm saying get a really big image is because I'm sure you've all experienced it. You know, what happens when you copy and paste a big image onto a Word document? You know, a bit of text ends up at the top left, a bit of text at the right, and then you're spending time kind of moving everything back into the right position, which for someone who struggles with fatigue at a computer, you know, it's very precious time that perhaps is wasted. But I've copied that image, Control V to paste, and as you can see, I just get a nice kind of thumbnail size image at the bottom right hand corner, which I can change the size if I want to, but it just kind of takes away some of that faff. Okay, good. So I have to admit, this is where I'm going to cheat. I have prepared this in advance, of course I have, but this is my Blue Peter moment. Here's one I made earlier, my Marvel comic characters essay. I only stuck with 4 main characters, and you guys got 3 out of the 4 that I chose, so that's pretty decent. But what I've done again with this mind map, all I've done is on every single branch, I've got some text, kind of like my essay that I'm writing, and I've got an image associated to every single branch as well. Okay, so before I export this out to other formats, I do want you to spend a little bit of time just describing how MindView has built into the software a citations tool. This is kind of one of those main reasons why MindView has become so popular in the DSA. Students can use MindView not only to do their referencing, but we've got a built-in source catalog. So we've actually licensed WorldCat into the software, which is a kind of library of 2 billion sources and growing. Books, films, journal articles. The easiest thing for a student to do is just type in the ISBN number of the book, and it's going to appear right there. But I'm going to just do Spider-Man for this example. It searches the internet, and I'm going to use this particular source. So I haven't got an author on this one, so let me just put Mr. Spider-Man, I don't know. Now, once I've added those sources, I can use it to create my citations. If I'm going through this very quickly, guys, don't worry, there's loads of YouTube videos and opportunities to learn how to do this, but I just wanted to demonstrate how, as a study skills tool as well, MindView is great at being able to help structure essays as well as do citations, which is a kind of, as you know, a critical component of essay writing. Excellent. Well, look, so far, we've gone from having a complete blank page, we've approached the problem with brain dumping. And if you're ever lost when you're doing one-to-one mentoring, or if you can't think of those ideas, just brain dump them onto the screen. And then I've organized them, written my text, added images, and I've even done citations. But this is the kind of the big payoff. And this is the, you know, again, where MindView excels, where we have this integration with the Office suite. the ability to go from your mind map into your relevant format, something your piece of paper with your drawing on it could never achieve. And this is kind of the big benefit of this MindView software. So as you can see at the top, we've got various different integrations, Word, PowerPoint, HTML, PDF. But if I go into File and Export as well, you'll see it integrates with Excel, it integrates with the task list, and it even integrates with Microsoft Project. So for users of our software who use MindView for project planning, MindView has about 90% of the functionality of Microsoft Project. It's just easier to use and more visual, which we'll come on to in a moment when we look at the Gantt chart. But I want to turn this into my essay. So we'll go to Word, choose the custom Word export. This is where in the software you're able to select some different templates. As a learner, at the very top, you've got those academic styles, APA, Harvard, MLA, they're at the top. If you're working in the workplace and you have a template already defined by your business, you can actually use that template and all this information will get structured onto that Word template. In this example, I'm going to choose API. I know it's not necessarily a psychology paper we're writing, but I'm going to put it onto API anyway. Now, just to demonstrate what's going to come across into the Word document, an image of the map will appear at the top of the Word document, which is very useful for transitioning between the two different styles, the organic radial style of the mind map and the linear style of the Word document. It will write a table of contents. It will include a title page, and it will also write the bibliography for us as well. If I want to choose a different style of bibliography, I can from this list also. But let's export this out. Marvel comic characters. Today's date, May 7, 2018. And MindView works together with Word to take our plan and all of the different bits of content and turn it into a professional or academic suitable linear hierarchical document. Oh, I need to enable my content in APA. So here we go. Marvel comic characters by Liam Pettit. I'm very proud. Thank you all for your help. Scroll down to page 2. Here's the image of that mind map. But notice how the main branches are converted into the main chapters of our table of contents. And it's using that sequence, that ordering sequence that I referred to earlier. And the sub-branches are those sub-chapters. If I turn on the navigation panel on the left and go to the headings, notice how MindView's mind map has been converted into the different styles. So the first branch is style header number 1. Branches from away from the center, style header number 2. Again, one of those kind of key study skills that are used by students, but often overlooked. And if I scroll down, all the content that I've added onto the branches forms the body of the text. Now, I left the images in because I like bringing over all the content, but if you want, you can actually choose to have the images turned off. Great for inspiration, maybe not so great for the essay. There's the reference that we did, Spider-Man 2002, page number 23. And if I scroll all the way down to the bottom of this document, which we've written together, you'll find the bibliography. Now, not only will you find the written bibliography, but all of those sources have been imported into the sources of the referencing tool of Word. So you can now transfer that over into your source list or your master source list in Word. But for users, be it workplace or be it academically, who really struggle to work in a linear style with Word because you've got lots of pages and lots of information, much easier to build it in the mind map, add all your content, drag and drop your order, and then just export it to Word. And I don't have to do anything else now. It's formatted, it looks great. And the comment I have had from a lot of people in the workplace, sometimes they're told, you're spending far too long producing these Word documents. They look really, really good. Maybe your time's spent better elsewhere. But of course, it's being all done automatically, which is terrific. The integration with the Office suite is two-directional, so you can take existing Word documents, pull them into MindView, and it will make a mind map from scratch. Alternatively, you can edit this document, pull it into MindView, and it's going to update your mind map there as well. But this is where we really consider MindView a productivity software as well, because perhaps along with your report, you have to do a presentation. But instead of starting in Word, finishing, then having to start all over again in PowerPoint, you start with your visual plan in MindView, and now from Word, I'd say, right, now I need a PowerPoint presentation. So now I sent it out to PowerPoint. Choose some hideous slides from MindView, or choose your company style. But ultimately, it just completely removes that requirement to replicate the same information over and over again, which, you know, as a dyslexic, that repetition is draining and frustrating. But for everyone, this is obviously a huge time saver. There's the main slide introducing the 4 main headers, and just takes us again around that hierarchy. Maybe a little bit of editing to tidy this up, but you're left with a very suitable presentation. In fact, some study skills tutors tell me that some students will use MindView as a way of creating a kind of hub of revision content, export it to PowerPoint, and then turn the PowerPoint into a PDF. So then they kind of have revision cue cards as opposed to a PowerPoint presentation. And it's a great way of being able to create revision content. Okay, so, you know, in a very short period of time, we've gone from having a completely blank page, brain dumped our ideas, organized them, brought structure to those ideas, added our content, and now actually turned it into a submittable, formatted document. And obviously, I'm really conscious of time, so I'm not going to stop there for a moment, because I do want to just show you a couple last time management tools or project management tools in the software. But is everyone happy? Kind of give me that virtual high five in the GoToWebinar tool. Great. It's Thursday, Friday tomorrow. We're all inside on our computers when it's beautiful outside. So that virtual high five is keeping us all going. Excellent. Thanks. Good. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to touch on then is how MindView in the workplace is used as a project management software. I'm not going to create a brand new mind map from scratch. I'm just going to quickly open one of my project management templates. Let's say an organization of an event. So the emphasis is changed here. I'm using MindView as a way of thinking about, okay, when I'm organizing an event, what do I need to do? What are the different kind of things that I need to complete, my main deliverables and those kind of tasks beneath. Now, what we can do with MindView, which is quite powerful, is add date information, resource information, even costs, and quite complicated project management functionality. But let's say, for example, I just wanted to create a really simple visual action plan for this mind map. Well, built into the software, as well as the mind map, this is where, you know, more than just a mind mapping software, we have a timeline view, outline, and a Gantt chart. So let's start off by looking at the timeline view. So just like we did in the Office export, that list on the left-hand side, so our mind map's been converted into a linear hierarchy using the order of the mind map. The main deliverables are in gray, and the kind of tasks beneath it are in white. And at a very high level, I can start to think about, right, so when am I going to start this task? I'm going to start that on the 17th, and that's going to take me through until the 19th. And the mind map in the middle is now already starting to kind of try and make an estimated guess on a good scale for the timeline based on the dates that I'm punching in. But what's very useful is these duration bars then start to appear beneath, and I'm sure you can all start to see that. Especially learners, you know, coming to university, starting to realize that they've got more than one thing they need to do at a given time, or even when it comes to creating visual action plans for your team in the workplace, the time it takes to do that in something like Excel or in PowerPoint is quite time consuming. Well, there's no kind of secret to this. It's the same information from our mind map. We're just now placing start and end dates. And we're getting really nice kind of visual timeline duration bars, which perhaps will help us to identify those areas where things are overlapping. How am I going to manage that? You know, sometimes it's just the ability to have this printed out above your desk or in a place where you can see it regularly to anticipate when those things are happening. You know, who am I going to bring in to support that, etc., etc. Now, as I mentioned before, I haven't got time to go through how to beautify all of this, you know, make lots of different colors and different shapes. But, you know, that's your artistic license. But maybe some of those color contrasts will help to define maybe priority, RAG rating, or just to help categorize different parts of the timeline. But as I promised, I wanted to dispel a little bit of fear about the Gantt chart. And for those of you who do assessments, and maybe every now and again a student says, oh, can you tell me about the Gantt chart? Or you're going into the environment of a workplace and training people on the Gantt chart. My recommendation is leverage your skills as a mind mapper first. You know, it's a great way of planning a project. Get the ideas out, structure them around the mind map, and then go to view, select the Gantt chart. And what MindView has is a very robust built-in Gantt chart with much of the same functionality as Microsoft Project. But as you can see, it's written it for us. Do you know, even if you aren't dyslexic and you're a project manager and it's your responsibility to write Gantt charts, the time it takes to go from a meeting where you've used lots of sticky notes to then go write it up, you know, depending on the size of the project, sometimes you can spend the rest of your day writing a Gantt chart. Well, you don't have to do that again, just do everything in MindView, then export over to the Gantt chart. But some of the simple benefits for everybody is that the drag and drop is very nice. I've got, instead of a consolidated timeline, duration bars in line with the task name itself. And then you can see across the top, the ribbon is the calendar. And I can just drag and drop to define start and end dates. Higher education and further education, obviously this is used for curriculum specific areas. You know, if they're doing professional projects within various different degrees, FE, construction, engineering, IT, science departments, are often using this as a way of producing evidence of planning as part of their examination. But at higher education as well, I've seen users use this to help, you know, postgrad especially, plan out those research proposals. You know, thinking about projects, how am I going to do that? But I'm not going to want to confuse anyone on the line today. So just know that obviously it's got that built-in Gantt chart and it's going to help save a significant amount of time. So just to bring it back, this is a template that I've taken from within the software, and it helps to outline the kind of typical uses of MindView for both the workplace and for learners. We've covered how to generate ideas in a visual way, just to get started, get the ideas rolling and get that organization, the structure of the mind map going. We then looked at the citations a little moment, and then we saw how we can export into different formats, Word, PowerPoint being a couple of those main ones. MindView's project management functionality is great for supporting time management, you know, creating revision plans, and the way that you can embed anything, you can put anything onto a branch, is a way of organizing files in a way that's much easier to navigate than, say, a typical folder structure where things get lost. At the very end here, we've got the kind of those project management functionalities. MindView adopted by Schneider Electric, Bayer, GSK as their kind of mind mapping project management software. This is in the software itself, so we've created a link to each video, kind of a tutorial video for each individual section, and a nice template to help kind of practice and reinforce some of the skills that are embedded within those tutorials. But ultimately, I hope you've taken away from this introduction to mind mapping software just how much bigger than just a mind map these types of softwares can be. How they address the challenges that are often barriers for dyslexic learners and dyslexic colleagues. And when looking at MindView specifically, where it excels is in being truly accessible with all those accessibility enhancements and kind of a little insight into who's using it. And hopefully the demonstration I've given has given you some food for thought on how you can use the software as well. Donna, I'm not sure how we're doing for time exactly, but I think you wanted me to go in over 45 minutes. So how have we done?
Yes, you are spot on. And Liam, that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. We've already got lots of people saying thank you. It's been really insightful.
Pleasure.
And a lot of people are asking about a recording. And yes, we will be sharing a recording of this session with everybody, so please don't worry. Okay, so without any further ado, we've got loads of questions to get through. The first one, just quite, hopefully quite a simple one. We've got one of our listeners saying, could you show us again how to add pictures onto the mind maps, if that's okay, Liam?
Yeah, of course. There's loads of different ways you can add pictures. as I mentioned, there is a picture catalogue on the right-hand side with about 2,000 images there. You can just take it from your computer. So as you can see in the ribbon toolbar, we've got a section called Branch Picture, and this is where you search on your computer for any images you have saved. So let's say, for example, I can just put a picture onto my mind map like this. But I think the reality is, especially if you don't have the images saved, a lot of people just find an image online, right-click to copy that image, and then right-click or Control-V to paste it onto your mind map, and then you can make it as big or as little as you like.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, we've got a number of questions asking about cost and licensing issues as well. So okay. How much does it cost?
That's a good question. So there's a range of different licensing costs. At the moment, MindView is a perpetual license fee. So essentially when you buy it, you own that version. If you were to go buy the software online, it would cost for a single license £279. That's the same price for the workplace as well. If you buy multiple licenses, there are discounts associated to that. We do also have a significantly discounted version of the software for students. So those students do have to be in full-time education, and that's £79. All pricing I'm giving is excluding VAT. For businesses or for universities that are looking to get a subscription to MindView, which is an annual fee where you get all the updates and training included, that's based on the number of students or the number of employees that you have. So this kind of bit more bespoke, but it works out a lot cheaper than buying £79 or £279 per employee.
Okay, great, thank you. Next one, is there a German or a Spanish version of MindView? That's what Rhonda wants to know.
What a great question. So unfortunately, we did stop the Spanish version back in MindView 4, I think it was. However, we're actually a Danish company originally, and all of our developers are still in Denmark. So we have not only an English version, we have a Danish version, we have a German version, a French version, Swedish version as well. In fact, in France alone, we have about 3,000 lycées who use MindView for various different reasons. So yes, not only do we have those versions of the software, but we have support in those languages too.
Fantastic, thanks Liam. Another question, if somebody has created a mind map for planning purposes, are they able to share that electronically with another colleague so somebody else who doesn't have that technology can look at it if it's for an event or something like that?
Yeah, so for users to see a MindView document, they do need to have MindView installed. However, it is possible to download a free viewer of MindView, so you don't have to purchase the software to do that. Of course, we're always looking for innovative ways to share mind maps. At the moment, probably the most popular thing to do if you do want to share the image of the mind map is just to save the image of the mind map in a PNG format, and then you can share it, and it's very easy to expand and make it smaller without having to worry about pixelation.
Great, thanks Liam. We've got another question. Somebody's saying they'd used it a long time ago and it sent email alerts for deadlines in projects. Is that ringing any bells?
Yeah, so obviously we don't have the time to go through everything today, but MindView has an integration with the Outlook task list. So if you've applied dates to your tasks, you can even apply individuals' different email addresses. And yes, you can then integrate with the Outlook task list, which will send an email to everybody who gets a task, and then they can update their task lists, and you can synchronize back and forth through MindView and your Outlook task list as a way of kind of keeping up to date with your completion of project items.
Great, thank you. Another question. Do you have any links, and we could of course share them after this broadcast, of YouTube kind of tutorials or anything like that
Yeah.
people
So
have?
we have a YouTube channel, and if you just come over to here, we've obviously got lots of different, again, the different languages and the different videos, from very specific to general videos. I would recommend, if you're interested, to go over to matchware.com. Underneath education and assistive technology, there's lots of obviously information about how MindView supports learners with lots of different neurodiversities, the accessibility enhancements, and some case studies. But then also under resources that we've got, under support, we've got lots of video tutorials as well directly through the website.
That's brilliant, and I wonder if this might answer this next question from Alison, actually, Liam. She says, I have students with this software and would really like to be proficient at using this so I can help my students, but I can't afford to buy it myself. What advice do you have? I suspect what you've just been sharing us could be a way to go for Alison.
Yeah, I think so. It also depends, so outside of the digital content, it depends on what level of learner. So as you well know, universities are extremely well resourced to provide incredible support for neurodiversities, and as I mentioned, a lot of universities have MindView. So if you were literally just to type in university and MindView on Google, there's lots of content that has been made by some of our university clients. The first page here, for example, NCL, Nottingham, Sheffield University, Sussex, and so on and so forth. So, but if learners are at higher education, I don't want to speak out of turn for each individual university, but it may be worth going over to student services and the tutors and the mentors there, because we have a relationship with every single university, and there's bound to be someone who can support with MindView if they need a bit more kind of one-to-one support as well.
Brilliant. And Alison, I hope that answers your question. Good advice from Liam there. We've got another question now from Helen. Is the software compatible with Apple?
Yeah, so we have a PC version of the software, an online version, and a Mac version. So the interface doesn't look like the PC version because the PC is designed to look like a Microsoft software, but I'm told the Mac version is intuitive if you are a Mac user, which unfortunately I'm not, but yes, all the functionality is there, and it's a kind of dedicated platform for Mac version.
Great, thank you. Another question, is it used much in schools? So you've talked a lot about higher education. What about primary and secondary level?
It used to be. Back in the days when Bector and e-learning credits were supporting schools to be able to purchase, pilot, or just have resources, MindView was extremely popular. We're going back to kind of MindView 4. But then obviously at the change of the government, literally the day after Bector was kind of flushed down the toilet, and a lot of that funding left. So sadly, we don't have as many secondary schools because the resources don't really kind of make it available. We do have some, and they get a lot of benefit from it, preparing students for further and higher education or for the workplace with kind of some of the strategies in there, but it is a limitation, the resources.
Okay, thank you. And I think this is probably linked. It's from Beatrice. She says, is this individual student discount available to secondary students? So again, it's about schools. And for students who don't have SPLD, I suppose it's that good a package now, Liam. It would benefit us all, whether we've got learning differences or not. Yeah,
if you think in a visual way, this is going to help. The cheapest, well, the highest level of discount we provide for a student is down to that £79 level. The most cost effective is for secondary schools to buy subscriptions to MindView. Because of the recognition of resource, it's our most discounted service. So for the kind of maximum of, well, it is £949 per year for a secondary school. The idea being we were trying to kind of get around the £1 per student mark per year for everyone to be able to access.
Great, okay. And I think I'm just looking at the questions, Liam. I think for now that's possibly it.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell everybody about the workshops that you've got coming up, or?
Yeah, of course. Well, you know, let me make a really quick mind map about, and of course, I don't want to tread on your toes at the BDA, but obviously we do provide a lot of direct support for MindView.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can email for me, perhaps to you guys if you want to request some support from us. But we run a webinar series. And these are CPD accredited webinars where you download the software in advance. It's a little bit longer than we've had today, and I actually give you activities to do on the MindView software as we go through it. And they're kind of focused on academic, workplace, and we also have one for kind of time management or project management, I think is best. And yeah, at the moment we are on our summer roadshow. I'm not sure if any of you have seen that already, but we're down now to our last two events. In fact, our last two events are taking place in Oxford and in London. Off the top of my head, I know London is on the 22nd of August, and I believe Oxford is the 9th of August.
Sorry, Liam, I've put you on the spot there, haven't I?
It's okay. Well, it just shows how quickly I can make a mind map to show everybody.
I know, it's very impressive.
We do have limited spaces for those, so we kind of do need to focus on specific areas. But if you are interested and you want to kind of tell us a little bit about what you do, it may be you want to come along. It's completely free. We get a nice hotel, put on lunch. There's even a glass of Prosecco at the end for those who stick around. But it's a lot of fun. It's hands-on training all day with the software.
Brilliant. And would it help if we shared a link to the guys who were on the session tonight? I know obviously people who are listening to this in the future, as a recording, those dates will have passed by now, but for the people who potentially could come along to Oxford or London, are you okay if we share a link to the event?
Yeah, I can do. They're not public, so it's not something you can just search.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But how about so this is my. Shall I put up my email address? Yeah, matchware.com. If you want to send a request through, if you're also interested, you can download MindView for 30 days completely free of charge. If you want me to send you the link for that, as well as maybe some useful materials, I'm more than happy.
Fantastic. Thanks, Liam.
Cool.
Okay, so we've got a lot of thank yous, and that just brings me to say a huge thank you from us here at the BDA as well. It's always brilliant to hear people like yourselves explaining these packages, and I've had surprises tonight, just exactly now what it's doing. It's moved on in leaps and bounds. That's a huge credit to you and the team. And like I say, everybody's saying thank you. And so we're so glad you enjoyed it, everybody who's listening. Please do message Liam if you want to attend. And I'm so sorry, Liam, I hope I haven't put my foot in it there by mentioning. No,
you haven't at all. You haven't at all. And of course, we're going to want to appear at lots of the BDA events as well. So Donna, you'll have to tell us which ones are coming up.
No, that's fine. It's been fantastic to work with you. It's a brilliant product.
Should we get one last kind of big high five from everyone on the line? Just kind of,
yes, please do.
So yeah, there we go. Look at them go.
Yeah. So Liam, thank you so much. That was brilliant. And like I say, everybody's really enjoyed it. And rest assured, everyone, you will get a recording of this. And it just leaves me to say, have a lovely rest of the evening. It's way too hot to be inside, so I think we do all need to go and take a chill out now and have a relax. And Liam, thank you again so much from us here at the BDA.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye.